spending most of the day still listening to my phone go off on new subscribers and catching up with comments that I missed while I was asleep, which, if I did not have to sleep, if there was a legal drug and a way to get around having to sleep, I guarantee you I would be in the clinical trials, because it drives me absolutely bonkers that I have to spend somewhere between 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a day sleeping. I understand the purpose and the point of sleeping, but I would much rather just skip it if I can. I also don't sleep very well. A lot of different issues there involved, but nonetheless, spending all day today working on getting things taken care of on my 2 channels, and I'm pretty much still at the 10% level here on Spotlight. I've actually gone a little bit higher, I think. No, I take that back. I just reached 400 new subscribers since the Living Dinosaur shoutout on Xander's Meteor, and I just hit 40 over here on Spotlight on Xander. So, because I have been dealing so much with that, that's why this is the second video that's kind of about the same thing, and I do not want to bore you. So I have come here with my hat in my hand, to a degree, and I am going to ask of a few different ideas what commentary or video would you all like to hear from me next. I generally keep notes of things that I come up with and things that I think of and things that come up in conversation with other YouTube users or other people, in an attempt to ensure that I don't forget a good idea. One of the ideas that occurred to me actually 2, maybe 3 months ago was the concept of polytheism in the beginnings of Judaism. And my thoughts on the matter were, if Judaism did start as a polytheistic religion, and I will not be putting the evidence that exists in any video to further that understanding, because the work has been done. The reports and studies have been done that show a very strong likelihood that Judaism was derived from other polytheistic religions that were around at the time, and that over time and through rewrite and through omission, it became a monotheistic religion. So, I'm not going to tackle that. That's been done. And that's one thing that I would like for everyone to understand about my channel. Unless I actually have the knowledge, or there's a necessity for me to research a new topic, then I will be putting my thoughts on a specific topic here in video form. I don't want to say that I'm not willing to enter into a debate with people about my opinions, but I do want people to recognize and realize that this is my opinion. These are my thoughts based on the information that has been presented to me. If you guys want source material, generally search Google, because that's all I'm doing. I may reach out to another YouTube user or someone else that I know in an attempt to get more solid evidence or find the solid concrete proofs that I need in order to make a claim. But don't think of me as making a lot of claims. Think of me as stating my opinion based on the claims of others that have researched this information. So, to back it up, the thoughts on Judaism, originally starting as a polytheistic religion, and what that would actually mean for current Judeo-Christianity. my initial response when I first came across the evidence that was presented to show that Judaism was a polytheistic religion before it became monotheistic, my thoughts immediately went to, that is actually something that I would expect more Christians to accept, and for there to be less of a pushback against that concept. Because if it was originally a polytheistic concept, if it was a polytheistic religion, then all of the bad that is attributed to Yahweh could actually be attributed to a superstitious belief, I know, irony, but a superstitious belief that the bad came from a different God. Obviously the thought's not fully fleshed out, but that's kind of my point. I want to know if anybody wants to hear anything about that. Another thing is definitely the question that I already presented of moderate versus moderate. I could continue along that line of thought in an attempt to really work through it on my own, because I need to get to the point where I don't view, well, I don't use the word moderate to actually describe extreme or strong Christianity. So maybe looking at that a little bit more will help. Another thing is violent video games. Now, that was just completely and totally sociological, but I play a fair amount of video games. I don't play as much as I used to. I used to play 8 to 10 hours a day, and that was back when I had my 40-hour work week, or 40-hour work week, and was extremely responsible. But when I got done with work, then I didn't have anything else to do, didn't have anything else I wanted to do, so it was video games for the rest of the time until I passed out. So, and then there's, of course, the controversy over violent video game studies and what their effect is on children, or violent video games and what their effect is on young, impressionable children, and those types of studies. And since that's something that I do spend a lot of time doing, and it's quite possibly once I have, if I ever do have kids, something that they'll probably spend a fair amount of time doing with me, I kind of was thinking that I wanted to also with this one sort of flesh out the argument of how it's a parent's responsibility, that it is not the government's responsibility to regulate what is and what is not considered, well, too violent, I guess. Another thing that has bothered me a lot recently is this trend of, maybe not so much anymore, but it may be because I sort of stopped paying a whole lot of attention to politics so I could focus on some other things that were going on, but the deification of the Founding Fathers is something that I have noticed in the past couple of years, and it's been pushed by, yes, the Tea Party and the Republican Party, and quite possibly by other people. But there's that, I remember in high school there was the talk about rewriting history books, and how the books started coming out that were showing our Founding Fathers in a not so flattering light, and they were, I won't say dismissed, because they weren't dismissed, but they were definitely not accepted by the conservative right-wing community and society that I was a part of. It was, George Washington cut down the cherry tree and said he couldn't tell a lie, so everything George Washington ever did was good. And then, of course, someone says, well, he owned slaves, and everybody goes, well, and come up with justifications. But it just seems that in the past couple of years, basically since Obama's been in office, that suddenly this get back to basics, get back to what our Founding Fathers wanted, etc., has turned into a, like I said, a deification of the Founding Fathers. And if we are going to turn our Founding Fathers into gods, or even, I don't know, prophets or saints, then, well, I have a problem with that, obviously. And then there was one other idea that I had, and this one is in reference to, sorry, I'm actually looking at note cards. I keep pieces of paper hidden underneath my keyboard so that if somebody comes in, they don't see what I'm thinking about or writing about. But one of the other things that I have on here is, let's assume for a moment that there actually is a God, and that the God of the Bible, that the Judeo-Christian God, Yahweh, does exist, that the fundamentalists are correct in the existence of heaven, hell, and angels and demons, and God. And if you've ever read Piercing the Darkness or This Present Darkness books, which I actually do think I will still enjoy, even with their overtly Christian overtones. It's not even overtones, it's what the damn books are about. But the heaven and hell battle. My question is if we assume that all of that is accurate, and we assume that all of that is true, can we honestly say that Lucifer, which, again, yes, you could say that Lucifer is not Satan, so we'll just skip the term Lucifer and we'll just say Satan. Is it possible that Satan was actually working for us in his attempt to overthrow God? Also, there's the simple point that Christians, so many people believe that the greatest gift that God could ever give us, and the greatest gift that God did give us, was free will. And if we are the only beings that have free will, then how was Satan and his third of the angels, keep that in mind, 1 out of every 3 angels, sided with Satan? That's a lot. And all of those angels decided that they were going to take on God. And someone wants to say, people want to say, Christians want to say that we are the only beings that have free will. I don't think that they even understand the concept. I'm not necessarily sure I understand the concept of free will, other than the belief that God is not a puppet master and we are not puppets on strings. Beyond that, you could go into it more, but in my opinion, that's what it simply comes down to. And the foreknowledge that a God could have by being omniscient can be said that it negates free will because he knows, and therefore we don't have free will. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all, because if I know the future and am unable to tell someone else about the future, then I still am allowing that person to exercise their, quote, free will, unquote. And seeing as how God doesn't actually exist, or at least I don't believe he does, then he can't tell us what the future is. So we actually do have free will, even if you attribute the other attributes to him. Attribute attributes, yeah. So, again, what if Satan was on our side? What if Satan was working for us? It's just an interesting question. I think I may want to get into a little bit more, and so I just thought I'd ask you guys for some feedback on which one of those ideas actually sounds the best.